For the last few years, I've been into trying to mill my own lumber. Just at a real small scale, finding logs at the river and bringing them back using an axe and saws to try to mill them up into usable lumber. And I wanted to build an outdoor shed that I could use to dry it. That way, it wasn't taking up space in my garage. So I made this shed. You can see here, I toe it out, some measurements. Basically, I just had a 15-degree angle cut on the tops of my support beams, if you want to call it that, just simple 4x4s. I was pretty short on lumber. I wasn't about to go out and buy some. So yeah, I just used what I had. For the front and back, I guess, connector pieces at the bottom, I cut a chunk out of a 4x4. Used a really bad, cheap Harbor Freight drill to toss some screws in there. I only got like 3/4 of the way through the screws, and I had to turn it by hand the rest. And it wasn't very fun. On the back, I said, forget the screws. I just went in there with some nails. I toenailed them in there, like beat them in there at different angles, so that way it won't just pull straight out. Makes it a little bit stronger. To connect the back to the front, I used some 2x4s, nailed them in there. Once again, toenailing them. These are also going to be used as like floor supports, maybe. I put like a slats of a pallet on top of those to make a very like sparse floor. You'll see what I'm talking about at the end of the video. My roof is a piece of plywood that I got from my fraternity in college. No one was using it, so I said, all right, this is now the size of my shed. The only thing I did spend money on were these hinges. It was like $14 or $16 for two, so I think that's fair. They seem pretty good quality. And this is the real kind of premise of the shed. It's a box with a lid, and yeah, pretty simple. This was honestly more of an excuse to just test out an idea that I had maybe a year ago, where I made the shingles of a roof out of aluminum cans. And so I put down the shower curtain as like one barrier of protection in case water got past the shingles, but I also nailed through it so it's not like completely waterproof. I figured that was the right thing to do. So in my spare time last semester, I took these cans, cut the tops and bottoms off of them, and flattened them. And I didn't really know what I was doing when it came to shingling this house. Couldn't find any YouTube videos on it. So I just did what I thought was right. I overlapped it so the seams of the shingles were all facing the same way. And when I was going down the sides, I made sure the seams were all facing downwards. That way water would roll off it instead of being caught by the shingles. This is what I'm talking about putting the seam facing downward. You put the lower shingle underneath the shingle above it. That way water rolls off the shingle onto the next one. Now, here's the real fun part. You can see I have all those cans back there. I'm not an alcoholic. Like I said, I was in a fraternity in college. Lots of people drink beer, so that's what I had access to. Yeah, people don't drink massive amounts of soda on the weekends, and that's what I had access to. Once I got about a layer or two up, I stretched a string across. That way the bottoms of my shingles would all be even, and I made sure the bottom of my shingles went past the nail hole. I'm not going to go too in depth here with how I shingled. I'll make that a different video. Main thing here, I overlapped the shingles side to side about 1/4 of an inch. And then, yeah, I made sure the bottoms of my shingles went down past the nail holes in the lower shingles. here's the last couple shingles. I thought it was going to be a cool shot, but there's a weed whacker in the background, so it just is annoying. Now, I'm putting a support from the back support beams to the front. It's a piece of a pallet. Not only is that going to make it a little stronger, it's also going to serve as a backing for the siding that I'm putting on there, and the siding is just pallets, nothing special. It's not the strongest. I just jammed some screws and nails in there, but this whole structure isn't going to be under a whole lot of stress, and I think the siding is going to add more support, so I think it'll be all right. Like I said, I'm using some pallet wood as siding. Start at the bottom so that way you can lay your pieces on top of one another and you don't have to hold it up. Put 2 nails per side, so 4 nails in total per one piece of pallet wood. Yeah, I think that's fine. I wasn't about to cut these to size, so I just threw them up there and cut them off later. That was annoying, but that was the choice I made, so that's what I dealt with. And I wasn't about to make the top look nice at all. Like, this is a pretty kind of rough, beaten down shed here, so I'm not too concerned in making it look nice. Now, to make the sides last a little longer, I burned them all. I think this is an Asian technique called shishugi, and it's supposed to prevent like mold and rot. I think the reasoning behind that is when you burn wood, like wood ash is very basic, and so I don't think mold can grow easily in a very basic environment. Could be completely wrong, but that's my take on why burning wood is supposed to help prevent mold and rot. That's not the only way I treated this. I'll get to the second way in a second. But first I needed to make little roof holder upper. I just drilled a little hole, not all the way through the roof, just barely into it, and put the knock of an arrow in there. The front of it went into the front support beam, and that'll work fine. So after I burned everything, I took some used motor oil and just brushed it on there real heavily. Try not to drip any on the cement below. And I figured that is going to help keep water out of the wood. There's still like slots in between here, so it's not completely watertight, but that's what I get when I'm using pallets. You can see here the water just beads up and runs down beautifully. I'm super happy with how that turned out. Now the last real vulnerable part of the shed are the corners. Covered those up with some tin cans, starting at the bottom, overlapping about 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch, just covering up those nail holes. That's going to help keep water out of the corners and make it look kind of cool. Now off camera, I put some green 6x6s underneath it as footings. Those are pressure treated boards, so that should help prevent rot from working its way up. I'm putting wood in there, and that's what the shed's for. Hopefully it keeps it dry. If it doesn't, I'll figure something out. Alright, thanks for watching.